What if the monsters that haunt our myths and legends aren't just figments of imagination, but mirrors reflecting our deepest, most primal fears? For centuries, cultures around the world have spun tales of terrifying creatures, each one embodying the anxieties that keep us awake at night. These aren't just stories to frighten children around a campfire. They are coded messages from the human psyche, revealing our universal dread of the unknown, the inevitability of death, and the fragility of the world we've built. Today, we're diving into the shadowy realm of mythic creatures, uncovering 24 legendary beings that don't just scare us, they understand us. Because every snarling fang, every ghostly whisper, every clawed hand reaching from the darkness is a manifestation of something far more unsettling, the fears we've carried for millennia. Think about the Wendigo, the gaunt, ravenous beast of Algonquian folklore, born from the terror of starvation and the unthinkable act of cannibalism. Or the Doppelganger, that eerie double who walks beside you, a silent omen of doom echoing our fear of identity slipping away, of becoming strangers to ourselves. And who hasn't heard of the Chupacabra, the blood-draining predator that stalks the night, tapping into our unease about the unseen threats lurking just beyond the safety of our homes? These creatures aren't random inventions. They're psychological blueprints crafted by generations of storytellers to give shape to the formless dread that lives inside us all. This isn't just a list of monsters, it's a journey into the heart of what makes us human, our vulnerabilities, our nightmares, the shadows we try so hard to outrun. From ancient folklore to modern urban legends, these mythic beings are more than just entertainment. They're keys to understanding the collective fears that bind us across time and culture. So stay with us as we unravel the origins, the meanings, and the chilling truths behind 24 creatures that prove one thing: our greatest monsters aren't under the bed or in the woods. They're inside us, waiting to be named, and once you see them for what they truly are, you'll never look at the dark the same way again. Have you ever caught a flicker of movement in the corner of your eye, only to turn and find nothing there? That creeping sensation of being watched, of something just beyond sight, is the domain of the shadow people, one of the most unsettling mythic figures across cultures. These silent, humanoid silhouettes linger at the edges of our vision, vanishing when we stare directly at them. But they aren't just modern ghost stories. Their roots stretch back millennia, from the Mesopotamian Utuku, demonic spirits said to lurk in darkness, to the Hat Man, a shadowy figure in a fedora reported by sleep paralysis sufferers worldwide. What makes these entities so chilling isn't just their eerie presence, it's how they exploit our instinctive fear of the unseen. Our brains are wired to detect threats, to fill in gaps with patterns, especially in low light. That's why shadow people often appear in dim hallways or the hazy moments between sleep and wakefulness. Sleep paralysis, where the mind wakes before the body, can trap victims in terrifying hallucinations, with shadow people looming at the bedside. But here's the unsettling twist. Countless people who have never experienced sleep paralysis swear they've seen them too. A nurse working the night shift spots a dark figure darting past an empty hospital corridor. A child insists a tall, faceless watcher stood in their doorway. Are these mere tricks of the mind or something more? Science offers explanations: sleep deprivation, misfiring neurons, even carbon monoxide poisoning. But folklore suggests something deeper. The Hat Man, for instance, isn't just a random shadow. Witnesses describe the same chilling details: a broad-brimmed hat, a coat, an overwhelming sense of malice. Could these shared details hint at a collective fear? a modern archetype of the predator, the stranger in the dark, the thing that observes but never speaks. Whether supernatural or psychological, shadow people tap into a universal dread, the fear that we're never truly alone, that something or someone is always just out of sight, waiting for us to let our guard down. When winter's grip tightens and food vanishes beneath endless snow, something stirs in the frozen silence, something ancient and ravenous. The Wendigo isn't just a monster, it's a warning carved into the bones of Algonquian tradition, a spirit born when desperation twists hunger into madness. Picture a creature towering and skeletal, its stretched skin clinging to sharp bones, lips cracked and bloody from feasting on flesh. But the true horror isn't its appearance, it's the origin story. The Wendigo emerges from the darkest corners of human survival when starvation drives someone to commit the unthinkable, consuming another person. Once that line is crossed, the transformation begins. The hunger never fades, it grows. This isn't just a tale of supernatural horror. The Wendigo embodies a cultural fear of moral erosion, the idea that extreme conditions can strip away humanity, leaving only insatiable want. Indigenous storytellers used the legend to condemn greed and excess, warning against hoarding resources while others suffered. The creature's heart is said to be made of ice, a chilling metaphor for the coldness of selfishness. But modern retellings often miss this depth, reducing the Wendigo to a generic horror villain. Pop culture versions focus on jump scares and gore, erasing its roots as a cautionary symbol of environmental imbalance and communal responsibility. Yet the Wendigo's resonance endures because it mirrors fears we still grapple with today. Climate change, unchecked capitalism, the isolation of modern life, all echo the Wendigo's curse, an endless hunger that consumes everything in its path. Some scholars even link it to mental health struggles like addiction or depression, where desire becomes self-destruction, the most terrifying part. The Wendigo was once human. It reminds us that monstrosity isn't born. It's made, one desperate choice at a time, and just as hunger can twist into something inhuman, so too can despair, which brings us to another creature of endless craving, one that lurks not in snowy forests, but in the suffocating dark beneath the earth. Deep in the humid nights of Puerto Rico's countryside, farmers began finding their livestock drained of blood, not a drop left, just 2 puncture wounds on the neck. Thus, in the 1990s, the Chupacabra was born. Its name means goat sucker, but this creature is far more than a rural superstition. It's a shape-shifting nightmare, evolving with our collective fears. Early witnesses described a reptilian fiend with glowing red eyes, spines down its back, and a taste for blood. Yet within years, reports morphed into something eerily different. A hairless, mangy canine with sunken eyes and jagged teeth. How could one monster wear so many faces? The answer lies in what the Chupacabra truly represents: anxiety about forces beyond our control. For farmers, it symbolized agricultural ruin, a predator that left no trace as it decimated livelihoods. In an era of factory farming and climate uncertainty, the creature became an omen of food chain collapse. But there's another layer. The Chupacabra's grotesque, diseased appearance mirrored fears of emerging pandemics. Its hairless, almost alien form evoked radiation sickness or genetic mutation, tapping into Cold War-era dread of contamination. Even its shifting descriptions reflect a deeper truth. Monsters adapt to the fears of the moment. Science offers explanations for the sightings: coyotes with mange, known for their gaunt, otherworldly look, or mass hysteria fueled by media sensationalism. Yet some details defy easy answers. Why do so many witnesses insist the creature moved unnaturally, almost mechanically? Why do carcasses sometimes show surgical precision in their wounds? Even skeptics admit rural communities have encountered something they can't explain. Perhaps the Chupacabra's power comes from its ambiguity. It's not just a cryptid, it's a vessel for every modern terror, ecological disaster, invisible pathogens, the unknown creeping into our backyards. And just as this beast thrives in the borderlands between myth and reality, so too does our next creature, one that doesn't stalk the countryside but the very edges of our reflection. There's a reason the sight of your own face staring back at you, with no mirror in sight, sends chills down your spine. The doppelganger isn't just a ghostly twin, it's a violation of the most fundamental truth we know, that we are singular, irreplaceable. Germanic folklore paints these doubles as omens of catastrophe, appearing moments before a person's death or downfall. But the terror runs deeper than superstition. The doppelganger taps into our primal fear of identity theft, mental fracturing, and the unsettling realization that we might not be who we think we are. Consider Abraham Lincoln's alleged encounter. Days before his assassination, he reportedly saw his own doppelganger in a mirror, pale, double-faced, a harbinger of his fate. Was it a trick of the light, a stress-induced hallucination, or something more? Psychologists point to conditions like Capgras delusion, where sufferers believe their loved ones have been replaced by identical imposters. The brain's facial recognition system glitches, severing emotional connection to familiar faces. Suddenly, the world fills with duplicates and nothing feels real. Literature amplifies this dread. In Dostoevsky's The Double, a man unravels as his doppelganger steals his life, mirroring our fear of being erased in a world obsessed with authenticity. Even robotics wrestles with this terror through the uncanny valley, the revulsion we feel when androids look almost human but not quite. A face too perfect feels wrong, as if something has slipped in wearing our skin. What makes the doppelganger uniquely horrifying isn't just its prophecy of doom, it's the implication that our sense of self is fragile, that another version of us could exist unbidden. And if identity can be stolen so easily, what else might be lurking just outside our perception? That question leads us to another creature, one that doesn't mimic faces but warps reality itself. Somewhere in the misty hills of Ireland, when the wind carries a sound like a woman weeping, those who hear it know death is near. The Banshee doesn't lurk in shadows or chase her victims. Her power lies in her voice, a piercing wail that shatters the night, signaling that someone's time has come. But this isn't just a ghost story. The Banshee is a cultural echo of grief, a manifestation of the unbearable weight of loss, and a reminder that mortality spares no one. Her origins trace back to the ancient tradition of keening, where women would sing laments at funerals, giving voice to the pain of the living. Over time, these mourners became mythologized, transforming into spectral figures whose cries carried prophetic dread. The Banshee isn't random in her appearances. She's tied to old Irish families, appearing only for those with ancestral connections to her. Some say she combs her long, silver hair by a river, a symbol of purification and the passage between worlds. Others describe her as a withered crone or a beautiful young woman, her form shifting to reflect the many faces of sorrow. What makes the Banshee so chilling isn't just her role as a harbinger of death, it's how she embodies the universal fear of the inevitable. Her wail forces listeners to confront their own mortality, the uncertainty of when and how the end will come. But there's another layer here. The Banshee is almost always female, tying her to the cultural expectation that women carry the burden of grief. Across folklore, female spirits like Latin America's La Llorona, another weeping specter, are often bound to tragedy, their stories reinforcing the idea that sorrow is a woman's domain. Yet these figures also serve a deeper purpose. the Banshee and her counterparts give form to collective trauma, allowing communities to process loss through narrative. When death was a constant, unpredictable presence, her cry offered a strange kind of preparation, a warning that softened the blow of finality. Today, the Banshee endures because she speaks to a truth we still wrestle with. That grief is as much a part of life as breath itself. But if the Banshee is the sound of impending doom, what of the creatures that refuse to make a sound at all? The ones that watch, listen, and wait silent as the grave. That's where the real terror begins. In the age of Wi-Fi and webcams, our monsters no longer lurk in forests. They glide through the digital static, faceless and everywhere. Enter the Slender Man, a creature so modern he was literally coded into existence. Born in 2009 from an online Photoshop contest, this towering, faceless entity in a black suit became the internet's first crowd-sourced nightmare. But don't mistake him for just another campfire tale. Slender Man is the perfect embodiment of 21st century fears, the terror of being watched without consent, the anonymity of the digital abyss, and the way horror can metastasize online with terrifying speed. His design is deliberate in its simplicity, a blank slate for our anxieties. No face means no empathy, no humanity, just endless observation. His elongated limbs evoke the unnatural, like a glitch in reality itself. And his preferred victims, children. This taps into every parent's worst fear, that the online world, for all its wonders, is a place where predators, real or supernatural, can reach through the screen. The infamous Slender Man stabbing in 2014, where two 12-year-olds lured a friend into the woods claiming they were sacrificing her to him, proved how dangerously blurred the line between fiction and reality can become. Yet Slender Man's roots stretch further back than meme culture. He's a digital descendant of the tall man from Native American lore, a spectral figure who stalked the edges of villages, stealing those who wandered too far. German folklore's Der Grossmann and Slavic legends of the Leshit, all thin forest spirits, echo similar themes. What makes Slender Man different is his medium. He doesn't haunt physical spaces. He thrives in JPEG artifacts, distorted YouTube videos, and the eerie silence of abandoned chat rooms. His rise coincided with the explosion of deepfake technology and data mining, making him a chilling metaphor for how easily our digital footprints can be twisted into something monstrous. But perhaps the most unsettling quality of Slender Man is his mutability. Like a virus, his myth adapts. Early stories painted him as a silent observer. Later iterations gave him teleportation, mind control, even the ability to manipulate time. This evolution mirrors our escalating paranoia about technology's reach, the fear that our devices aren't just tools but gateways for something else. And just as water reflects and distorts, our next creature emerges from the depths where reflections twist into something far more primal. For centuries, sailors whispered of a horror lurking beneath the waves, a beast so vast its tentacles could drag entire ships into the abyss. The Kraken wasn't just a monster, it was the ocean's wrath made flesh, a living nightmare woven into Scandinavian folklore. Early Norse texts described it as a fish so enormous it could be mistaken for an island, its body rising from the depths like a landmass before dragging prey under. But this wasn't mere superstition. The Kraken embodied the very real terror of the unknown that haunted every mariner who dared cross the open sea. What makes the Kraken so enduring isn't just its size, it's the way it personifies humanity's fragile relationship with the ocean. Medieval maps labeled uncharted waters with the warning, "Here be monsters," and for good reason. The sea was a vast, unpredictable frontier where storms could swallow fleets and strange creatures breached the surface without warning. The Kraken became the ultimate symbol of nature's indifference, a reminder that no matter how advanced our ships, the depths held mysteries beyond comprehension. Even the name Kraken comes from the Norwegian word krak, meaning something twisted or unnatural, a perfect descriptor for a creature that defied logic. Science has since pulled back the curtain on some of these mysteries. The giant squid, once dismissed as sailors' fancy, was finally documented in 2004 when Japanese researchers captured the first images of a live specimen. These real-life leviathans can reach lengths of 43 feet, their tentacles lined with serrated suckers capable of leaving scars on sperm whales. Yet despite these discoveries, the ocean remains 95% unexplored. Modern deep-sea expeditions still encounter bizarre, almost alien life forms, bioluminescent jellyfish with 30-foot tentacles, 6 gill sharks unchanged for millennia, even colossal squid with eyes the size of dinner plates. In a way, the Kraken never left. It simply evolved alongside our understanding. Today, the legend takes on new meaning. As climate change warms the oceans and disrupts ecosystems, the Kraken resurfaces as a metaphor for the unintended consequences of tampering with nature. Deep sea mining and oil drilling stir fears of awakening something ancient and uncontrollable, whether literal creatures or the cascading effects of environmental collapse. The 2010 Deepwater Horizon spill, which unleashed a toxic plume visible from space, echoed the old tales of the Kraken's ink darkening the water for miles. Even pop culture reflects this shift. Where once the Kraken was a mindless destroyer, modern portrayals like the majestic yet tragic creature in Pirates of the Caribbean hint at a more nuanced truth, that the real monster might be our own disregard for the balance of the deep. Perhaps the most chilling aspect of the Kraken myth is its ambiguity. Unlike terrestrial monsters, it doesn't stalk or hunt. It simply exists, a dormant force beneath the waves. Sailors didn't fear the Kraken because it sought them out. They feared because they might stumble into its domain without realizing until the water began to boil. And in an age of rising sea levels and vanishing coastlines, that fear feels less like folklore and more like prophecy. The ocean has always been the keeper of our darkest unknowns. The question is no longer whether monsters dwell there, but what happens when we provoke them. And as we grapple with the vastness of the sea, another creature reminds us that terror isn't confined to the depths. Sometimes it walks among us, wearing a face we almost recognize. On a cold November night in 1966, two young couples driving near Point Pleasant, West Virginia, saw something that would ignite one of the most chilling urban legends of the modern age, a towering figure with massive wings and glowing red eyes watching them from the shadows. This was the first recorded sighting of the Mothman, but it wouldn't be the last. Over the next year, dozens reported encounters with this winged enigma, each description more unsettling than the last. A 7-foot-tall creature with skin like gray leather, a 10-foot wingspan that stirred the air without sound, and those piercing, hypnotic eyes that seemed to bore into witnesses' souls. Then, 13 months after the first sighting, the Silver Bridge collapsed during rush hour, plunging 46 cars into the icy Ohio River. Coincidence? Or was the Mothman, as locals came to believe, a harbinger of doom? What sets the Mothman apart from other cryptids is its eerie connection to tragedy. Unlike Bigfoot or the Loch Ness Monster, this creature doesn't just linger in the wilderness, it appears before disasters, a living alarm bell. After the bridge collapse, reports surfaced linking similar winged figures to other catastrophes: Chernobyl, 9/11, even the 2004 Indian Ocean tsunami. Skeptics argue these are cases of hindsight bias, where ordinary events are reinterpreted as omens after the fact. But the consistency in descriptions, those glowing eyes, the unnatural silence raises questions. Could the Mothman be a psychological phenomenon, a manifestation of our subconscious dread given form? Or is there something more at work in the spaces between what we see and what we fear? Science offers plausible explanations. Sandhill cranes, large migratory birds with red markings near their eyes, are frequent culprits in misidentification theories. Others point to barred owls, whose wing beats are nearly silent and whose eyes reflect light in dim conditions. Then there's the more fringe but fascinating interdimensional hypothesis that the Mothman is a being from another plane of existence, briefly crossing into our world during moments of heightened energy or impending chaos. This idea taps into quantum theories about parallel universes bleeding into one another, suggesting that what we perceive as monsters might simply be entities from realities with different physical laws. Yet the Mothman's cultural impact transcends debate. It's become a modern archetype of the omen beast, a symbol of the anxiety that lurks beneath the surface of daily life. In an era of climate disasters, pandemics, and geopolitical instability, the creature resonates because it embodies our collective unease, the sense that civilization is more fragile than we admit, and that unseen forces might be trying to warn us. The town of Point Pleasant embraced this legacy, erecting a 12-foot steel statue of the Mothman and hosting an annual festival that draws thousands. Here, the monster isn't just a source of fear. It's a reminder that even in darkness, community and storytelling can transform terror into something strangely beautiful. But if the Mothman is the embodiment of pre-disaster dread, what of the creatures that thrive in the aftermath, the ones that don't warn of catastrophe, they feed on it? That's where the true nightmare begins. You wake suddenly in the dead of night, your chest crushed beneath an invisible weight. The air thickens as a shadow detaches from the darkness, a hunched, withered figure perched on your ribcage, her gnarled fingers tightening around your throat. You try to scream, but no sound escapes. This is the Night Hag, a universal specter of sleep paralysis whose presence spans continents and centuries. From the mare of Germanic folklore, whose name gives us the word nightmare, to Newfoundland's old hag, this entity preys on the same terrifying phenomenon, the moment when the mind wakes but the body remains trapped in sleep's paralysis. Her manifestations are eerily consistent. Across cultures, witnesses describe an elderly woman with stringy hair, sunken eyes, and an aura of malevolence. In Jamaica, she's the Dupi, a vengeful spirit who rides victims like a horse. In Vietnam, she's Mada, the pressing ghost. Even ancient Romans feared the Strix, a screeching crone who fed on sleepers' breath. This cross-cultural persistence suggests something deeper than coincidence. It reveals a shared human terror of being utterly powerless. The Night Hag doesn't just visit, she violates, exploiting the vulnerability of our most defenseless state, unconsciousness. Science offers explanations. Sleep paralysis occurs when arematonia, the natural paralysis that prevents us from acting out dreams, lingers into wakefulness. Hypnagogic hallucinations overlay these moments with waking dreams, often shaped by cultural fears. The sensation of pressure, likely the brain misinterpreting restricted breathing from supine sleep positions. Yet knowing this doesn't erase the primal terror. When neuroscientists scanned sleep paralysis sufferers' brains, they found hyperactivation in the amygdala, the fear center, and the temporoparietal junction, which governs spatial awareness. In other words, the mind constructs an attacker because it needs to explain the unexplainable, the sheer wrongness of being awake but unable to move. But here's where folklore and science entwine in unsettling ways. Why do so many independently describe the same hag-like figure? Some researchers propose she's an archetype rooted in infant memory, a distorted recollection of being smothered by a caregiver's body during co-sleeping. Others suggest she represents the ultimate loss of control, a manifestation of anxiety disorders or trauma. The hag's victims often report overlapping sensations of suffocation and sexual assault, echoing real-world violations that haunt the subconscious. The most chilling accounts come from those who have encountered her repeatedly. One woman described waking to the hag knitting beside her bed, whispering that each stitch represented a year stolen from her life. Another felt claws rake his back, leaving marks that lingered for days. Are these mere hallucinations, or does the night hag exist in the liminal space between waking and dreaming, a place where fear takes tangible form? After all, humans have always personified threats. Plague became the Grim Reaper, drowning became the Rusalka, perhaps sleep paralysis, that universal glitch in our biology, needed its own monster. And if the hag is the embodiment of nocturnal dread, what of the creatures that stalk us not in sleep, but in the blurred moments between day and night? The ones who thrive in twilight, when shadows stretch long and the world holds its breath. In the scorching deserts of Arabia, where the wind carves shapes in the sand and mirages dance on the horizon, there are creatures older than time itself, beings of smokeless fire who watch from the spaces between breaths. These are the jinn, not mere ghosts or demons, but a race of sentient spirits woven into Islamic theology and Bedouin legend. Unlike Western demons, jinn are complex, capricious entities with free will, capable of breathtaking benevolence or cruel mischief. They can be scholars, lovers, poets, or your worst nightmare. What makes them so unsettling isn't just their power, but their unpredictability. One might grant you 3 wishes, another might twist your words into a curse that echoes for generations. Quran mentions jinn as creations parallel to humans, made not from clay but from scorching wind. This duality is key. They're close enough to understand us, yet alien enough to defy comprehension. Ancient texts describe them as shape-shifters, taking forms as innocuous as a desert fox or as terrifying as a towering figure with backward-bending knees. Their invisibility plays on a primal fear that we're never truly alone. In pre-Islamic Arabia, travelers blamed sudden illnesses, lost belongings, or whispered voices in the night on the jinn. Even today, across the Middle East and South Asia, homes are built with small alcoves or iron ornaments, traditional wards against their influence. Modern encounters keep the legend alive. In 2018, construction workers in Dubai claimed tools vanished overnight, only to reappear in impossible places. Security footage showed shadows moving against the wind. In Pakistan's Thar Desert, shepherds speak of jinn lights, glowing orbs that lead the lost astray, echoing the will-o, the wisp of European lore. Skeptics dismiss these as sleep deprivation or methane gas, but locals insist the jinn are real, their presence growing stronger in places where the old world clashes with the new. Horror cinema has seized on this ambiguity. Films like The Wishmaster and Under the Shadow portrayed jinn not as simple monsters, but as entities that exploit human frailty, our greed, our grief, our desperation. They're the ultimate tricksters, turning wishes into weapons. This trope resonates because it reflects a universal truth: the things we desire most often destroy us. The jinn's enduring power lies in their ability to mirror our own flaws, proving that the oldest fears aren't of monsters, but of ourselves. Yet for all their menace, jinn also represent something profound: the mystery of the unseen world. Islamic tradition teaches that they live among us, praying in abandoned mosques, debating philosophy in the ruins of ancient cities. Some Sufi mystics even sought them as teachers. This nuance is often lost in Western portrayals, reducing jinn to jennies in lamps. The reality is far richer. They're a reminder that the universe is stranger than we imagine, and that not all secrets are meant to be uncovered. So the next time you feel a sudden chill in the desert heat, or catch a whisper in an empty room, ask yourself, is it just the wind? Or something watching, waiting from the corner of your eye, something that's been there all along? There's a reason dogs are called man's best friend, but what happens when that loyalty twists into something darker? Across the misty moors and winding lanes of Britain, a shadow pads silently beside travelers, its eyes burning like embers in the night. This is the Black Dog, no ordinary hound but a spectral sentinel of doom, a creature so deeply woven into folklore that its appearances span centuries, from ancient burial mounds to modern motorways. Descriptions vary. Some say it's as large as a calf, others claim its claws scrape sparks from the cobblestones, but one detail remains constant: to see it is to glimpse your own mortality. The Black Dog isn't just a ghost story, it's a mirror reflecting humanity's tangled relationship with guilt and despair. In Suffolk, locals speak of Black Shuck, a demonic hound whose 1577 appearance at a church in Bungay left claw marks scorched into the door, a violent omen preceding a storm that killed 2 parishioners mid-prayer. Sir Arthur Conan Doyle immortalized the legend in The Hound of the Baskervilles, transforming the creature into a symbol of hereditary sin. Even today, reports persist. In 2014, a truck driver in Devon swore a massive black dog vanished beneath his wheels without a sound, leaving no trace but a lingering sense of dread. What makes these encounters so chilling is their psychological weight. The Black Dog's association with death is undeniable, but its deeper resonance lies in its link to depression, a connection so strong that Winston Churchill famously described his own bouts of melancholy as being hounded by the creature. This isn't coincidence. Folklore often personifies mental anguish, and the Black Dog's relentless pursuit mirrors the way despair can follow its victims, unseen but inescapable. The Yorkshire Barghest, a similar entity, is said to wail outside the homes of the dying, its cries echoing the isolation of grief. Yet the Black Dog's universality is what cements its power. From the Celtic Ku Sith to the Norse Garma, guardian of Hell's Gates, cultures worldwide share tales of phantom canines marking the boundary between life and death. Perhaps it's because dogs themselves occupy a unique space in our psyche, protectors turned predators, familiar yet alien when glimpsed in the wrong light. Or maybe it's simpler. In their glowing eyes we see the oldest fear of all, the certainty that someday something will come for us and no amount of running will save us. But if the Black Dog is the embodiment of looming fate, what of the creatures that don't wait? The ones that seize their victims mid-breath, leaving no time for warnings or regrets. That's where the true hunt begins, deep in the bayous of Louisiana, where Spanish moss drips like ghostly fingers and the air hums with cicadas. Parents warn their children, be good or the Raogaru will get you. This isn't just a scare tactic, it's the echo of a centuries-old fear, a shapeshifter stalking the line between man and monster. The Raogaru, Cajun folklore's answer to the werewolf, is more than a creature of claws and fangs. It's a living parable, a curse born from broken rules, its very existence a warning against the darkness that waits when morality slips. The legend's roots twist back to French colonists who carried tales of the loup-garou, a wolfman cursed by witchcraft or divine punishment. But in the swamps of the New World, the story mutated like the creature itself. Here, the Raogaru isn't just a victim of fate, it's often a perpetrator, someone who's transgressed deeply. Some say it preys on those who break Lenten fast 7 years in a row. Others whisper it hunts the arrogant, the violent, the ones who have shed too much blood. The transformation is never random, it's cosmic justice, a sentence served in fur and fang. What makes the Raogaru uniquely terrifying isn't just its brutality, but the rules governing its curse. According to tradition, the beast's reign lasts 101 days. After that, the curse can pass to another, but only if the Raogaru speaks of its affliction to a living soul. This twist turns the monster into a prisoner of silence, forced to roam alone with its shame. It's a brilliant piece of folkloric psychology, the fear of isolation magnifying the fear of becoming a monster. Communities weaponize the tale, using it to enforce everything from religious observance to racial boundaries during Jim Crow. Tell a child the Raogaru hunts those who wander into forbidden parts of town, and suddenly, geography becomes morality. Yet the Raogaru's power lies in its ambiguity. Unlike European werewolves, which are often tragic figures, this creature exists in a moral gray area. In some stories, it's a mindless killer. In others, it's almost penitent, lurking at the edges of confessionals or leaving crosses made of twigs near its victims. This duality reflects Cajun culture's complex relationship with sin and redemption. The idea that evil isn't always external, but something that festers inside, waiting for a moment of weakness to take hold. Modern sightings keep the legend alive. In 2016, a fisherman near Huma claimed something with eyes like fire stalked his boat for miles, keeping pace effortlessly through cypress groves. Around the same time, a Lafayette nurse reported finding claw marks on her screen door after nights working the graveyard shift. Skeptics blame black bears or coyotes, but locals know better. The Raogaru adapts, they say. It doesn't vanish, it evolves. Today, it might lurk not in the swamp, but in the neon glare of a casino parking lot, or in the static of a late-night radio station playing Zydeco just a little too slow. The Raogaru endures because it speaks to a universal truth. Civilization is thin as rice paper, and beneath it, something older and hungrier paces. It's not the transformation that scares us, it's the realization that the monster isn't some foreign invader. It's the part of ourselves we chain up tight, the wildness that whispers, "What if you let go?" And in that moment of doubt, when the wind carries the scent of damp earth and copper, you might just hear the answer, a growl, low and close, that isn't coming from the marsh at all. It's coming from you. In the red rock deserts of the Navajo Nation, there's a name spoken only in whispers, Yi Naldlushii, the one who walks on all fours. This isn't just another monster tale. It's a cultural landmine, a subject so charged that many Diné people refuse to discuss it after dark. The Skinwalker isn't a creature to be romanticized or dissected for entertainment. It's a violation of natural order, a human who's crossed the ultimate line by witching magic to wear the skins of animals and sometimes other people. Unlike European werewolves, which are often cursed victims, the Skinwalker chooses its path, trading humanity for power in the darkest of pacts. The terror of the Skinwalker isn't just in its shape-shifting, it's in the intimacy of its betrayal. These beings were once neighbors, family, friends. They know the routines of their victims, the names of their children, the weak spots in their homes. A coyote lingering too long at the edge of a sheep pen might not be a coyote at all. A grandmother's voice calling from the darkness could be something wearing her face. This plays on a universal fear that the people we trust most might harbor monstrous secrets. The Navajo concept of haja, or balance, is shattered by the Skinwalker's very existence. Where there should be harmony, there's only hunger and rot. Pop culture has diluted the Skinwalker into just another bogeyman, thanks to viral stories about Utah's Skinwalker Ranch and horror movie tropes. But the reality is far more profound. Traditional accounts describe rituals involving grave dirt and the murder of close kin to gain power. Some say a Skinwalker can steal a person's voice just by locking eyes with them, leaving the victim mute with terror. Others speak of them running alongside cars at impossible speeds, their eyes reflecting light like an animal's. These details aren't random. They're rooted in the Navajo understanding of Ch ejective iogonic acute iogonic dii, the chaotic energy that corrupts the soul. What sets the Skinwalker apart from generic werewolves is its cultural weight. While Lon Chaney Jr. S. Wolfman evokes sympathy, the Skinwalker evokes revulsion, not just from its actions but from its rejection of community values. In Navajo cosmology, witchcraft is the ultimate taboo because it turns creation against itself. Even discussing it risks drawing its attention. This isn't superstition. It's a lived reality for many Diné, where livestock still turn up mutilated under full moons, and elders warn against accepting gifts from strangers. The contrast with Western werewolf myths is stark, where silver bullets and full moons reduce lycanthropy to a simple curse. The Skinwalker represents moral collapse. There's no cure, no tragic backstory, just a predator who remembers what it means to be human well enough to exploit it. Perhaps that's why the legend endures. In a world where trust is fragile and masks are easy to wear, the Skinwalker isn't just a monster. It's the embodiment of our deepest suspicion, that evil doesn't always announce itself with growls and claws. Sometimes it knocks politely at your door, smiling with familiar teeth. And if the Skinwalker teaches us that monsters wear many faces, our next creature reveals an even more unsettling truth. Some faces wear us. In the pine barrens of New Jersey, where the trees grow thick and the fog clings like a second skin, there's a legend that refuses to die, a creature born not of nature but of human sin. The Jersey Devil isn't just another cryptid. It's a living relic of America's colonial past, a winged horror with the face of a horse, the body of a kangaroo, and a scream that curdles blood. Its origin story reads like a Puritan morality tale. In 1735, a woman named Mother Leeds, already burdened with 12 children, cursed her 13th during a stormy birth. As the story goes, the child transformed before her eyes, sprouting leathery wings and talons before vanishing into the wilderness. But this wasn't just a tragic accident, it was a warning. The Leeds family were Quakers, a sect viewed with suspicion by their neighbors. The devil's birth became a metaphor for the dangers of deviance, a supernatural scapegoat for the fears of a rigid society. What makes the Jersey Devil unique is how it evolved alongside America itself. Early sightings painted it as a harbinger of misfortune, appearing before shipwrecks or economic crashes. But as the frontier pushed westward, the creature became a symbol of the untamed wild resisting civilization's march. 19th century newspapers described it as a winged nuisance, swooping down to snatch livestock or tear up fences. Farmers would wake to find their fields trampled, the earth scarred with three-toed prints leading nowhere. This wasn't just superstition. It reflected very real anxieties about the land fighting back. The Pine Barrens, with their acidic soil and labyrinthine trails, were and still are a place where people vanish without a trace. The devil became the face of that unknowable danger, a reminder that nature could wear claws. Modern encounters tell a different story. In 1909, over 1,000 people claimed to see the devil during a week-long panic. Schools closed. Factories shut down, armed posses scoured the woods only to find nothing. Skeptics blamed mass hysteria or misidentified sandhill cranes, but the legend persisted. Today, the creature has become a quirky mascot for South Jersey, emblazoned on hockey jerseys and brewery logos. Yet every few years, fresh reports surface. A family in Galloway Township swears something with glowing eyes stalked their backyard in 2018. A group of campers in Wharton State Forest captured eerie screeches on audio in 2021. The devil's resilience lies in its adaptability. It's no longer just a colonial curse, but a mirror for whatever we fear most. Environmentalists see it as a spirit of endangered wilderness. Conspiracy theorists claim it's a government experiment gone rogue. The truth, maybe it doesn't matter. The Jersey Devil endures because it fills a need for mystery, for identity, for a story that makes the shadows feel alive. In a world of satellites and streetlights, we still crave the thrill of the unexplained. And deep in the pines, where the wind sounds almost like laughter, something old and hungry might just be craving us back. But if the Jersey Devil is the wild's revenge, what of the creatures that don't haunt forests but the very walls of our homes? The ones that slip through cracks unseen until it's too late. In the deep forests of Slavic folklore, where birch trees whisper secrets and the wind carries the scent of burning herbs, there's a hut that walks perched atop giant chicken legs, its door gaping like a hungry mouth. This is the domain of Baba Yaga, the most enigmatic witch in mythology. She's not just a crone with iron teeth and a flying mortar. She's a paradox, a figure who might grind children into her stew or gift heroes the secrets to save their kingdoms. Baba Yaga doesn't fit neatly into boxes of good or evil. She's a force of nature, embodying the terror and awe of the untamed feminine, the kind of power that patriarchal societies both fear and begrudgingly respect. Her hut alone tells you everything. It spins on command, its entrance guarded by a fence adorned with skulls, yet it responds to polite requests, turning to reveal its door only for those who know the right words. This duality mirrors Baba Yaga herself. In some tales, she's a cannibalistic nightmare, sniffing the air for the scent of human flesh. In others, she's a wise mentor, testing protagonists with impossible tasks before bestowing magical gifts. The key to surviving her, respect, not submission, but the kind of cunning and courage that mirrors her own. She's the ultimate gatekeeper, guarding the boundary between the mundane world and the realm of magic, and crossing her threshold means confronting the unknown within yourself. Baba Yaga's ambiguity speaks to a deeper cultural tension. In societies that often marginalized older women, she became a vessel for suppressed fears of female autonomy, of the natural world's indifference, of the knowledge that exists outside institutional power. Unlike Western witches who are typically pure villains, Baba Yaga operates by her own logic. She might help a lost girl escape an abusive stepmother, then turn around and devour a lazy prince. Her morality isn't black and white. It's as twisted as the roots of the oldest tree in the forest. This complexity connects her to crone figures worldwide. Japan's Yamoba, a mountain hag, offers shelter to travelers only to eat them in their sleep. Mexico's La Llorona weeps for the children she drowned, her grief as deadly as her rage. Even Greek mythology's Medusa, often reduced to a monster, was originally a priestess punished for her beauty. These figures share a common thread. They're women who've been stripped of societal protection and thus wield power outside its rules. Baba Yaga stands apart, though, in her sheer unpredictability. She's not tragic like La Llorona or vengeful like Medusa. She's chaos incarnate, as likely to reward you as roast you. Modern interpretations continue to grapple with her legacy. Feminist retellings reclaim her as a symbol of unapologetic female agency, while horror stories amplify her grotesquerie. But perhaps the most telling detail is how she endures in children's tales. Kids love her not despite her ferocity, but because of it. In a world where adults make arbitrary rules, Baba Yaga is refreshingly honest. She's dangerous, she's powerful, and she doesn't care if you like it. That's why, centuries later, her hut still spins in our collective imagination, a reminder that some truths are too wild to be tamed, and some fears are too primal to be named. And if Baba Yaga teaches us that power wears many faces, our next creature reveals what happens when those faces refuse to stay buried. Along the quiet riverbanks of rural Japan, where the water runs deep and the reeds rustle with unseen movement, parents warn their children to stay alert not for snakes or strong currents, but for something far stranger. The Kappa waits beneath the surface, a green-skinned imp with the body of a child and the face of a turtle, its webbed fingers itching to pull the careless under. But this isn't just a bogeyman story to keep kids from drowning. The Kappa is a complex figure, equal parts predator and prankster, its legend woven into Japan's relationship with water itself. What makes the Kappa so unnerving isn't just its violence, it's the precision of its design, that bowl-like depression atop its head filled with water. That's the source of its power. Spill it, and the creature becomes helpless, even docile. This detail isn't random, it's a lesson in ritual and respect. Fishermen and farmers knew the Kappa could be appeased with offerings of cucumbers, their favorite food, or outsmarted with deep bows, a trick that would make the creature bow in return, spilling its life-giving water. Here, the monster becomes a teacher, enforcing codes of courtesy and caution near rivers, where one misstep could mean death. Yet the Kappa's darker side reveals deeper fears. These creatures were said to drag victims down to feast on their shirikodama, a mythical organ believed to reside in the anus, symbolizing the theft of life force. Medieval tales describe them raiding villages for livestock, or worse, pregnant women, their hunger mirroring the unpredictability of floods and droughts. This duality, playful trickster and merciless killer, reflects water's own nature, life-giving one moment, lethal the next. Modern Japan still grapples with the Kappa's legacy, but now the threat isn't just drowning. Polluted rivers, once the Kappa's sacred domain, have driven the creature into myth. In a cruel twist, the very industrialization that tamed Japan's waterways may have erased the conditions that birthed its legends. Today, the Kappa appears on sewer grates and environmental campaigns, a mascot for water conservation. The message is clear: if the rivers die, so too does the magic they held. Perhaps that's why sightings persist in shrinking pockets of wilderness. In 2019, a kayaker in Kyushu filmed something darting beneath his boat, too fast to be a fish, too deliberate to be debris. Locals nodded knowingly. The Kappa, they said, was reminding us that some monsters don't vanish, they adapt, and if we're not careful, they might just return as something far less forgiving. Because water remembers, whether it's the sacred springs of Shinto shrines or the plastic-choked currents of modern cities, the Kappa's lesson endures: respect the depths or the depths will claim you. And as our next creature proves, sometimes the deepest horrors don't lurk in rivers but in the reflections we'd rather not face. In the hushed corners of Eastern European Jewish tradition, where the line between the living and the dead grows thin, there exists a spirit so tormented it refuses to move on, a being that clings to this world not as a ghost, but as an intruder in another's flesh. This is the Dibuk, a soul so burdened by sin or unfinished business that it seeks refuge in the bodies of the living, twisting their voices into its own. Unlike demons of other traditions, the Dibuk isn't some faceless evil. It's tragically human, an echo of unresolved pain that refuses to fade quietly into the afterlife. The Dibuk's origins are rooted in Kabbalistic belief, where the soul's journey doesn't end with death. According to Jewish mysticism, a soul that cannot ascend, whether due to unconfessed sins, violent ends, or unfulfilled vows, may become trapped between worlds. Desperate, it latches onto a living host, often someone emotionally vulnerable or spiritually unguarded. The possessed might suddenly speak in tongues, recoil at sacred objects, or convulse with unnatural strength. But what makes these accounts chilling isn't the spectacle, it's the intimacy. The Dibuk doesn't just haunt, it inhabits, blurring the boundary between mental illness and the supernatural in ways that still resonate today. Historical records of Dibuk possessions read like early case studies in trauma. In 17th century Prague, a woman named Razel Bat Sarah began screaming in the voice of a dead merchant, accusing her neighbors of cheating him in life. An exorcism revealed the spirit was her own uncle who'd taken his life after a business failure. The ritual, performed by a rabbi and community elders, wasn't just about expulsion, it was about justice. The Dibuk was allowed to confess, to weep before being released. This therapeutic dimension is key, where Christian exorcisms often frame possession as a battle between good and evil. Dibuk tales emphasize reconciliation. The spirit isn't vanquished, it's heard. Modern psychology offers a lens to reinterpret these stories. Symptoms of possession, dissociation, memory gaps, sudden personality shifts mirror those of PTSD or dissociative identity disorder. In a time before mental health care, what else could communities do but interpret these crises through the language they knew? The Dibuk became a metaphor for the way trauma can colonize a person, speaking through them in ways they don't recognize. Even the exorcism rituals, with their intense communal involvement, resemble early forms of group therapy, where the afflicted is reintegrated into society through collective witness. Yet the Dibuk's power endures because it taps into a fear deeper than madness, the loss of autonomy. To be possessed is to have your body turned against you, your voice stolen. In an era where mental illness was often met with stigma or exile, the Dibuk provided a framework for compassion. If the sufferer wasn't crazy but occupied, then healing wasn't about punishment, it was about release. Perhaps that's why the Dibuk still whispers in our cultural subconscious. From S. Ansky's seminal play The Dibuk to contemporary horror films like The Possession, the theme persists. We're still grappling with how to confront the ghosts of our past, the traumas that nestle under our skin, the memories that speak through us when we least expect it. The Dibuk reminds us that some hauntings aren't about places but people, and sometimes the most terrifying possession isn't by a spirit, but by the parts of ourselves we've buried alive. And if the Dibuk shows us how the past can cling, our next creature reveals what happens when the future arrives too soon, not as a promise, but as a predator. There's a sound in the jungles of Malaysia that chills the blood, not the growl of a tiger or the hiss of a serpent, but the piercing wail of a woman in unbearable pain. This is the cry of the Pontianak, a spirit so steeped in sorrow and rage that she tears through the veil between life and death. Unlike Western vampires, this isn't some aristocratic seductress. She's a mother who died in childbirth, her spirit twisted by betrayal or violence, returning to punish the living with a vengeance as sharp as her elongated nails. Cloaked in a white burial shroud, her beauty is a lure until she reveals her true form. A gaping mouth stained with blood, her hollow back torn open where the child she never held was ripped away. The Pontianak isn't just a ghost story. She's a cultural lightning rod for Southeast Asia's deepest fears about the dangers of childbirth in eras before modern medicine, about women wronged in life who refuse to stay silenced in death. Her origins vary. Some say she's the spirit of a woman murdered by a lover, others a mother who perished in labor due to black magic, but the common thread is injustice. She preys not randomly, but with purpose, targeting men who resemble her killer or couples who flaunt their happiness while her own was stolen. In this way, she mirrors the Penanggalan of neighboring Folklore, another female horror, a disembodied head with trailing entrails that hunts newborns and pregnant women. Both creatures embody the terror of maternal loss, but where the Penanggalan is grotesque, the Pontianak is tragically human. She weeps before she kills. What makes her especially unsettling is how she weaponizes vulnerability. She might appear as a stunning woman by the roadside, asking for help, only to reveal her true nature when her victim is close enough to smell the grave dirt on her skin. In some tales, she even raises the child she lost as an undead familiar, a small, spectral figure clutching her hand as they stalk the night. This detail cuts to the heart of her myth. The Pontianak isn't just angry. She's grieving. Her violence is a distorted reflection of the love she was denied, a mother's instincts warped into something monstrous. Modern interpretations grapple with her legacy. Feminist readings see her as a symbol of patriarchal oppression, a woman whose rage is justified by the wrongs done to her. Horror films like Dendam Pontianak play up her savagery, while others, like Pontianak Haram Sundal Malam, paint her as a tragic anti-hero. But in villages, the old fears linger. Some still nail needles into the necks of corpses to prevent them from rising, or place glass shards in a dead woman's mouth to stop her from screaming her way back to the world of the living. Because the Pontianak isn't just a cautionary tale, she's a warning. Cross a woman's love, betray her trust, and even death won't save you from what follows. Yet for all her terror, there's a haunting vulnerability to her. Offerings of flowers or dolls might placate her. Some say calling her name startles her into vanishing, as if the sound reminds her she's no longer human. This duality, monster and mourner, is what ensures her place in folklore. She's not just a predator, she's a mirror, and in her reflection we see the darkest possibilities of love, loss, and the lengths a heart will go to when it's been broken beyond repair. But if the Pontianak shows us how grief can curdle into vengeance, our next creature reveals what happens when curiosity becomes a curse, and the answers we seek are more terrible than the questions. Among the windswept Orkney Islands, where the North Sea crashes against cliffs older than memory, fishermen still whisper of a horror that rides the storm, a thing so foul it has no skin. The Nukkalavi isn't just a monster, it's a living nightmare stitched together from the worst parts of man and beast, a grotesque fusion of horse and rider where the two are not separate, but fused in a single, pulsating mass of exposed muscle and sinew. Its breath withers crops, its touch spreads disease, and when it emerges from the sea, the very air turns toxic with the stench of rotting kelp and burning flesh. What makes the Nukkalavi uniquely terrifying isn't just its appearance, though that alone is the stuff of fever dreams. Picture a horse twice the size of any natural steed, its flayed body glistening with veins and tendons, its gaping mouth lined with jagged teeth. Where a rider should sit, there's instead a monstrous humanoid torso fused to the beast's back, its arms so long they drag on the ground, tipped with claws that scrape trenches in the earth. But the true horror lies in its face, a single, swollen eye bulging from a head too large for its body, and a mouth that splits vertically like a wound, exhaling a vapor that blisters skin. This isn't just a creature, it's a walking plague, a manifestation of Orkney's deepest fears, the sea's uncontrollable fury, the helplessness of farmers watching their fields rot, the sudden sickness that steals entire families in the night. Folklore paints the Nukkalavi as a force of divine punishment, unleashed when humans disrespect nature. In one tale, a farmer who overworked his horse during planting season woke to find his entire village choked by a red mist, the Nukkalavi's breath, leaving behind only blistered corpses. The lesson was clear: exploit the land or its creatures, and the Nukkalavi would come to collect. Its association with epidemics wasn't just symbolic. During the 18th century, when strange livestock deaths and human illnesses swept the islands, locals blamed the creature's nocturnal rampages. We now know these were likely outbreaks of ergotism or anthrax, but to a pre-scientific society, the Nukkalavi became a tangible explanation for suffering too vast to comprehend. Yet the creature has one vulnerability: fresh water. Legends say it cannot cross running streams, a detail that mirrors real-world quarantine practices during plagues. Islanders would douse their doorsteps with rainwater or flee to inland wells, trusting the Nukkalavi's hatred of purity to save them. This twist reveals the myth's deeper wisdom, that even the worst horrors have limits, and sometimes survival lies in understanding the rules of the nightmare. Modern climate change has eerie parallels to the Nukkalavi myth. Rising sea levels, algal blooms that poison coastal waters, even zoonotic diseases jumping from animals to humans, all echo the creature's ancient role as a bringer of ecological retribution. Perhaps that's why the legend endures. The Nukkalavi isn't just a relic of superstition. It's a warning etched in folklore's skinless flesh. Disrespect the balance of nature, and nature will answer in a form beyond our worst imaginings. And if the Nukkalavi teaches us that some monsters rise from the sea, our next creature proves others slither down from the stars, not with claws, but with whispers that unravel the mind itself. Deep in the tangled jungles of the Philippines, where the air hums with the secrets of ancient trees, travelers whisper of a creature that defies nature's laws, a towering figure with the muscular body of a man and the elongated head, hooves, and tail of a horse. This is the Tikbalang, no ordinary beast but a cunning guardian of the wilderness, a shapeshifter who delights in leading the unwary astray. One moment, you're following a familiar trail. The next, the path twists impossibly. Trees rearrange themselves, and you realize with dawning horror that the Tikbalang has claimed you as its plaything. But this creature isn't just a predator, it's a paradox, both protector and prankster, embodying the Filipino people's reverence for nature's untamed power and their fear of its indifference. The Tikbalang's tricks aren't random cruelty. Folklore paints it as a boundary keeper, punishing those who disrespect the forest, lumberjacks who overharvest, hunters who take more than they need, or outsiders who enter without offerings. Its favorite game is disorientation, making victims walk in circles until they collapse from exhaustion. Some say wearing your shirt inside out breaks its spell, a symbolic act of humility that acknowledges humanity's place within, not above, the natural order. This mirrors indigenous beliefs across Southeast Asia, where forests are seen as living entities with their own rules and wrath. The Tikbalang enforces these rules with a blend of mischief and menace, its elongated limbs and glowing eyes serving as a warning: the wild is not yours to conquer. What makes the Tikbalang uniquely unsettling is its duality. Unlike Western centaurs, which often symbolize wisdom or nobility, or Greek satyrs, known for hedonism, the Tikbalang embodies chaos with purpose. It might lead a lost child safely home or strand a poacher in quicks, and its morality as unpredictable as a storm. This reflects a cultural world where nature isn't inherently good or evil, it simply is, and humans must navigate its whims with respect. Modern sightings often describe the creature standing eerily still at the edge of clearings, its horse-like nostrils flaring as if smelling fear. Others tell of hearing hoofbeats where no horses roam, or catching glimpses of something that moves too fluidly between the trees to be purely animal. The Tikbalang's kinship with other hybrid creatures reveals universal fears. Japan's Bakniko, a cat yokai that walks on hind legs, shares its trickster spirit. Slavic folklore's Leshi, a forest spirit with moss-covered skin, similarly guards wilderness with deceptive games. Even the Native American Wendigo, though more violent, echoes the Tikbalang's theme of nature's retribution. But the Filipino creature stands apart in its playful malice. Where the Wendigo consumes, the Tikbalang toys, prolonging its victim's terror like a cat with a mouse, teaching lessons through fear rather than slaughter. Perhaps the Tikbalang endures because it mirrors modern anxieties about humanity's fragile grip on order. In an age of deforestation and climate crisis, the creature's legend feels less like superstition and more like prophecy. It's no coincidence that sightings spike near disputed logging sites or after natural disasters, as if the Tikbalang emerges to remind us the forest remembers. And when the last tree falls, it might not be a metaphor that walks out of the shadows, but something with hooves and teeth and a laugh like cracking branches. Because the Tikbalang isn't just a relic of folklore, it's the embodiment of a truth we've tried to forget, that the wild was never truly tamed, and the moment we turn our backs, the paths we've carved might just lead us somewhere we never meant to go. In the moonlit villages of the Philippines, where banana leaves rustle with secrets and the air smells of salt and damp earth, there's a predator that doesn't just hunt, it wears the faces of those you trust. The Aswang isn't one creature, but an entire taxonomy of terror, a shape-shifting nightmare that slips between human and monstrous forms with chilling ease. By day, it might be your neighbor, the midwife with the gentle hands, or the farmer who always shares his harvest. By night, its tongue unfurls into a needle-thin probe to sip the life from unborn children, or its legs stretch into grotesque stilts as it prowls rooftops, searching for windows left unlatched. This isn't just a monster story. The Aswang is a cultural alarm bell, a manifestation of the fear that evil doesn't always announce itself with growls and claws. Sometimes it smiles and asks how your family is doing. What makes the Aswang so uniquely terrifying is its adaptability. Unlike Western vampires or werewolves bound by rigid rules, this creature evolves to exploit the fears of the moment. In some regions, it's the Manananggal, a beautiful woman by day who splits her body at dusk, her torso taking flight on bat-like wings while her lower half stands motionless, waiting for her return. In others, it's the Tik-Tik, named for the sound its elongated tongue makes as it slithers through cracks to drain a sleeping victim's breath. Coastal communities dread the Burbalang, a ghoul that feasts on corpses and mimics the voices of the dead to lure the living. Each variation reflects localized anxieties, distrust of outsiders, the vulnerability of pregnant women, even the taboo of cannibalism during famines. The Aswang doesn't just scare, it adapts, ensuring its legend never grows stale. Modern pop culture has both amplified and diluted the Aswang's power. Films like The Aswang Chronicles and Tiyanak blend traditional lore with zombie movie tropes, turning the creature into a more generic horror villain. Yet these adaptations often miss the deeper symbolism. Historically, Aswang accusations were social weapons used to ostracize outsiders, punish infidelity, or explain miscarriages in a time before medical understanding. During the Spanish colonial era, the creature became a metaphor for hidden resistance, its shape-shifting representing the subversion of oppressive authority. Today, the Aswang resurfaces in political cartoons and memes, a shorthand for corruption or hypocrisy. When a politician's promises seem too good to be true, Filipinos might whisper, "Aswang yan, that's an Aswang." Science offers rational explanations for Aswang sightings. Sleep paralysis could explain nighttime visitations. Genetic disorders like hypertrichosis, excessive hair growth, might have inspired tales of half-beast hybrids. Even the Manananggal's split form echoes medical conditions like ectopic pregnancy or stillbirth, where the body seems to betray itself. But folklore persists because it answers questions science can't, like why bad things happen to good people, or how someone you trusted could reveal a monstrous side. The Aswang gives shape to the unthinkable, transforming abstract dread into something you can outsmart if you know the rules. Hang garlic by the door. Place a broom upside down to confuse it, Watch for the reflection in its eyes, said to be upside down like a predator's. Perhaps the most chilling aspect of the Aswang myth is its intimacy. This isn't a creature that attacks from the shadows, it thrives on closeness. It's the midwife who asks too many questions about your pregnancy, the new neighbor whose laughter doesn't quite reach their eyes. In a culture where community is everything, the Aswang weaponizes trust itself, forcing villagers to question every kindness. That's why the legend endures. It's not about the monster under the bed. It's about the one sitting at your dinner table, asking for seconds. And if the Aswang teaches us that danger wears familiar faces, our next creature reveals what happens when the face staring back at you isn't just familiar, it's yours, but twisted into something you no longer recognize. In the misty hills of Ireland, where the veil between worlds grows thin, there's a creature that defies easy definition, neither fully beast nor man, neither wholly benevolent nor cruel. The Puka is chaos incarnate, a shapeshifter of Celtic lore whose very name means spirit or ghost, though that translation barely scratches the surface of its complexity. One night, it might appear as a sleek black horse with golden eyes, galloping across moonlit fields, inviting riders onto its back only to send them tumbling into brambles. The next, it could take the form of a goat with curling horns, or even a shadowy figure with a grin too wide for a human face. But the Puka's true power lies not in its forms, but in its caprice, its ability to upend lives with a flick of its tail or bestow blessings with a sly wink. This duality is the heart of its legend. In some tales, the Puka tramples crops and scatters livestock, a force of destruction as unpredictable as a sudden storm. Yet in others, it leads farmers to hidden mushrooms or whispers prophecies in the ears of poets. Its behavior hinges on something deeper than whimsy. It reflects humanity's fraught relationship with the uncontrollable. The Puka thrives at threshold's twilight, the changing of seasons, the border between village and wilderness, embodying the fear that fortune and ruin often arrive by the same hand. Even its favored color, black, is a canvas for contradictions, the darkness of bad omens, but also the fertile soil of a freshly plowed field. Harvest traditions reveal the Puka's layered role in Celtic culture. On Samhain, the festival that birthed Halloween, offerings of grain or late-season fruits were left at field edges to appease it. Some believed the Puka spat on unharvested berries, rendering them inedible, a warning against greed or laziness. Yet those who respected its power might wake to find their stores inexplicably doubled. This push and pull mirrors the precariousness of agrarian life, where a single hailstorm or drought could mean starvation. The Puka became a way to personify nature's fickleness, to bargain with the chaos that no amount of hard work could fully tame. Modern echoes of the Puka linger in surprising places. The Halloween jack-o'-lantern, carved to ward off spirits, owes a debt to this shapeshifter's legacy. Even the concept of luck, that elusive force we both court and fear, carries traces of the Puka's influence. Its spirit thrives in stories where characters strike deals with tricksters, knowing the price of magic is often unpredictability. Because the Puka's greatest lesson isn't about avoiding chaos, it's about learning to ride it. Just ask anyone who survived a wild gallop on its back. Sometimes the thing that terrifies you is also the thing that teaches you to hold on. And if the Puka reminds us that fortune and fear are two sides of the same coin, our next creature flips that coin into the abyss, where the stakes aren't just crops or pride, but the very fabric of reality. There's a certain hush that falls over the world when snow begins to drift from the sky, a silence so deep it feels like time itself has frozen. But in the mountains of Japan, that quiet might be more than just the absence of sound. It could be the breath of the Yuki Anna, the snow woman, a spirit as beautiful as she is deadly. She glides through blizzards with skin like polished ice, her long black hair dusted with frost, her kimono fluttering like wind-blown snow. To meet her gaze is to feel the cold seep into your bones, not just from the winter air, but from something deeper, the realization that her beauty is the last thing you'll ever see. The Yuki-onna isn't just a ghost story to frighten children. She's a living lesson carved from Japan's brutal winters, where storms can swallow villages whole and travelers vanish without a trace. Her tales often begin with mercy. She might spare a young woodcutter, entranced by his kindness or his resemblance to a lost love, only to return years later to claim what she'd deferred. In one famous version, she marries the very man she spared, living as a dutiful wife until a moment of carelessness reveals her true nature. When she catches him watching her breathe frost onto their child's cradle, she dissolves into the snow, leaving only a whisper, "I would have loved you forever if you hadn't looked too closely." This twist cuts to the heart of her myth. The Yuki-onna isn't just a killer, she's a tragedy, a spirit bound to winter's cruelty, unable to trust warmth without destroying it. Her parallels to other frost spirits reveal universal fears. The Slavic Marzana, a goddess of winter and death, was ritually drowned in spring to symbolize the end of cold's reign, a stark contrast to the Yuki-onna's lingering personal vendettas. Yet both embody nature's indifference. Where Marzana represents seasonal cycles, the Yuki-onna is intimate, selective. She doesn't harvest souls en masse, she chooses, her curses as precise as icicles. Even Scandinavia's Nok, a shape-shifting water spirit, shares her predatory allure, luring victims with hypnotic beauty. But the Yuki-onna stands apart in her sorrow. She's not just a force of nature, she's a prisoner of it, her humanity frozen but not forgotten. Modern retellings grapple with her duality. Anime like Mashishi paint her as a mournful figure, while horror films amplify her lethality. Yet her roots remain grounded in survival. For centuries, Japanese villagers invoked her name to explain disappearances. A man lost in a storm didn't freeze to death. The Yuki-onna took him. This personification of winter's danger served a practical purpose. It made the uncontrollable feel deliberate, something you could avoid with caution or cunning. Don't travel alone at night, don't linger when the wind howls, and if you see a woman in white standing too still in the snow, don't meet her eyes. But the Yuki-onna's deepest terror isn't her violence, it's her sorrow. She's a relic of love cut short by circumstance, a reminder that some losses never thaw. In a way, she's the winter storm given a broken heart, howling not just from cold, but from the weight of all the warmth she'll never know. And as the snow piles higher, muffling footsteps and muffling screams, you might just hear the echo of her lesson. The deadliest things are often the ones that look like they'll let you live.